Greetings, everyone, and a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. I need to tell you, I'm confused. I'm reading my Bible, and I see the terms Hebrew, Jew, and Israelite. They're all God's people, right? Well, then what's the difference? Are you confused about this too? Then you're in the right place. Stay tuned to this episode of the Bible Basics Podcast, where we'll figure out what the difference is between the terms Hebrew, Jew, and Israelite. Well, welcome everyone. I'm your host, Jackie Adewale, and this is the Bible Basics Podcast, where weekly we break down the Bible into understandable, bite-sized chunks. When we're reading, studying, teaching, or preaching, we tend to use the terms Hebrew, Jew, and Israelite interchangeably. However, each of these terms has different origins and somewhat different meanings. Let's learn more about that. We'll begin by discussing the term Hebrew. This word holds significant historical and ethnic meaning in the Bible. The earliest mention of someone being called a Hebrew in the Bible is Abram or Abraham in Genesis 14:1. After that, his descendants down through his son and grandson Isaac and Jacob were also known as Hebrews. This term appears 5 times in the story of Joseph, including when Potiphar's wife referred to Joseph as the Hebrew servant. Joseph himself mentioned being taken from the land of the Hebrews. However, the exact origin of the term Hebrew is not definitively established. Some scholars suggest that it might have derived from Eber, E-B-E-R, a descendant of Noah through Shem, his son, and an ancestor of Abraham. Other scholars say the name Eber, which means on the other side of, could potentially refer to Abraham's journey from a region east of the Euphrates River to what would become the Promised Land. In the New Testament, the term Hebrew is sometimes used interchangeably with Jew. For instance, Paul described himself as a Hebrew born of Hebrews. And in 2 Corinthians 11:22, he equates Hebrews with Israelites and descendants of Abraham. Regardless of the term's exact meaning, its original connection is with Abraham as the father of the Hebrew people. Now let's unpack the term Israelite. We know that its origins are in the name Israel. Israel has its roots deep in the biblical narrative, tracing back to a pivotal story in the book of Genesis. According to Genesis 32:22 through 31, Israel was the name given to Jacob, the grandson of Abraham. In a momentous encounter with God, Jacob's name was changed to Israel, signifying a transformation in his life. The name Israel is often interpreted as one who wrestles with God. Now here's where it gets interesting. Israel isn't just the name of an individual. It becomes the name of a people and a nation. Jacob, now known as Israel, had 12 sons who became the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes form the foundation of the Israelite people. So when you hear the term Israelite in the Bible, it generally refers to someone from one of these 12 tribes. As the Bible unfolds, we see the Israelites as the significant group in the Old Testament biblical narrative. They are descendants of Jacob, or Israel, and are chosen by God to be his people. The story of their journey from slavery in Egypt, their wilderness wanderings, and their eventual settlement in the promised land of Canaan is central to the Old Testament. The term Israel is also used to refer to the northern kingdom of Israel after the division of the United Kingdom. To give you a bit of historical context, following the reign of King Solomon, the kingdom split into two separate kingdoms. The northern kingdom, made up of the 10 tribes, retained the name Israel. The southern kingdom, made up of the other 2 tribes, became known as Judah. In summary, Israel is a multifaceted term with deep historical and spiritual significance. It represents both a nation and tribes, the Israelites. Their story is intricately woven throughout the pages of the Bible. Now, let's move on to the term Jew. The term Jew is derived from one of Jacob's sons, whose name was Judah, which was also one of the 12 tribes of Israel. As I just mentioned, after the reign of King Solomon, the United Kingdom of Israel split into 2 separate kingdoms. The southern kingdom was known as Judah. The people of the southern kingdom, Judah, eventually came to be referred to as Jews. The term Jew was later applied to both kingdoms, north and south. In the Old Testament, the designation Jew or Jews is used only in the books of Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and Jeremiah, Daniel, and Zechariah. It did not become common until after Judah was exiled to Babylon in 586 BC. The Jews who finished rebuilding the temple after exile probably included members of various tribes. Therefore, after Babylonian captivity, the term was used for all Israelites, not just those from Judah. The term is more commonly used in context of the New Testament. Most references to Jews in the Synoptic Gospels are ones in which Jesus is identified as the King of the Jews. Paul also uses the term to refer to Jews as those entrusted with the Word of God. We find that in Romans 3:2. We can also see in 2 Corinthians 11:22, Paul identifies with those who might just as well be called Hebrews or Israelites. Now let's summarize what we've learned. Most scholars believe the term Hebrew likely comes from the name Eber, which is one of Abraham's ancestors. So, in the Bible, when you see the term Hebrew, it refers to descendants of Abraham. When you encounter the term Israelite in the Bible, it may refer to the descendants of the 12 sons of Israel, which was another name for Jacob, Abraham's grandson. The term can also refer to the northern kingdom and its inhabitants. Finally, the designation Jew initially referred to the inhabitants of the southern kingdom of Israel, called Judah. It went on to include all of the Israelites after Babylonian captivity. I hope this cleared things up for you. It certainly cleared things up for me. We now have a better understanding of the different origins and meanings of the 3 terms, Hebrew, Israelite, and Jew. They're all one people of God, descending from Abraham with different names. Each name has its historical and cultural significance, contributing to the rich tapestry of biblical history. Thank you for tuning in. If this has been beneficial to you, please share it with others, subscribe or follow. And all of you Apple Podcast listeners, drop us a review.